28-point beatdown in Memphis. A furious Steve Kerr was ejected at the half. Mike Brown took over coaching and calling for next man up.
Whoever is available to put on a uniform, they just got to go out and compete. And again, sometimes it doesn't happen. At the end of the day, we can't wait on Steph. We can't wait on Draymond. We can't wait on anybody. Whoever can put on a uniform is going to have to go out there and play, and we've done it before.
All right, Golden State's been struggling since losing Steph Curry to a foot injury against the Celtics, dropping 6 of their last 7, with last night's loss being their largest of the season. James Wiseman done for the season. Monica, I cannot believe I'm asking this because early on it felt like the Warriors were looking like world beaters, men amongst boys. But has the Warriors' window closed as serious title contenders with this revolving door of injuries?
Molly, the door is closed. Wow. And listen, this is not
aggressive on a Tuesday.
JJ. This is not about anything that these guys can or cannot do. It is just the reality of the league that we all love and consume insatiably. All 3 of the guys that are at the center of what the Warriors have done have missed notable amounts of time with injuries. While we hate to see players injured, that's a part of the game. It would be different to me, JJ, if these guys were still 24 through 26 now dealing with injuries, right? So they are all plus 30. They've all been injured. And quite frankly, the rest of the league, because they have been a gold standard for so long, has worked diligently and literally built rosters so that they can contend and catch up with this squad. And as you look around the West, it seems that it is working in sincerity. And so this, to me, is not a knock on anything that the Warriors have done. All good things have to come to an end. I just think the West is that deep and that dangerous, and injuries are real. If you're not on the floor, then you are not who you were over the course of the dynasty.
I don't think the window is closed quite yet. And I actually think this window could extend for another couple years. When we look at these injuries, they haven't happened simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And we all know that for the Warriors to be at their best, they need Draymond and Steph together. They need Klay out there. They need those 3 guys working together. Draymond came on my podcast a couple months ago, and he talked about this. Look, in a separate situation, Draymond would have found greatness. Steph would have found greatness. Klay would have found greatness. However, to reach their best, they all need each other. And so if we look at Draymond has said recently he feels great. Steph's got an ankle injury. There's some question marks there. Not anything he can't recover from in time for the playoffs. Klay has shown flashes lately of being the Klay that we all got used to for the last decade. So I don't think it's close. And the reason I think it can extend even further out beyond this season is because of James Wiseman, Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole. If we think about the Spurs run, there were so many times as those 3 guys got older, as Manu and Tony and Tim got older, that people felt the window has closed. And all of a sudden, Kawhi develops into an all-star, an all-NBA player. Danny Green develops. They get contributions from Tiago Splitter. They get a good veteran presence in Boris Diaw. All of a sudden, that window got extended another 5 years. Yes, the big 3 are getting older for the Warriors, but they have guys. James Wiseman, can he develop into an all-star? Can Jordan Poole, who's been on fire lately, continue to develop? Can Wiggins sort of, regain that all-star form that he had earlier in the season? This window can extend for another couple years, in my opinion.
Okay, so JJ, I hear you in theory, right? But do we at least agree that the rest of the West, the gap is significantly closing?
Oh, 100%. Look, this is not the Warriors that dominated the NBA in 15 and 16 before Kevin Durant. This is definitely not the Warriors with Kevin Durant. But as a contender, they are in that conversation. They still are in that conversation. They still have enough. And there's been flashes at times throughout this season. They've shown they can be one of the best teams in basketball. And look, the jump the Grizzlies have made, I don't think anybody expected that. Mm-hmm. Let's not rule out the Jazz. Let's not rule out the Mavericks or the Nuggets if they get guys healthy. Of course, the Suns are the best team in basketball. There's great teams in the West. but this window's not
Okay,
closed.
hold on one second, because you just named a lot of teams. I want to move this forward. Right now, if you had to pick, you gave me like 10 teams. I mean, it's
Come
cool.
on,
I
Molly.
get it.
I gave you 4.
Okay,
I gave you
maybe
4
5, maybe
teams.
5. There were so many, I lost
4 or 10,
count.
it's fine.
JJ,
4 other teams. 4 other
JJ, if today was the day, you're a betting man. Who's in the Western Conference Finals?
Well, I don't know the final seedings. The Suns are certainly going to be in the Western Conference Finals. The interesting matchup to me is if the Mavs, who I think are 2 games out of 3rd place right now, if they get to the 3 seed, if the Warriors continue to lose games, and we see a Grizzlies Mavs second round matchup, there's a real chance the Mavs can advance to the Western Conference Finals. That's a good matchup for them.
Interesting.
If it's Grizzlies
Throwing another team in
Warriors
there.
in that second round, I think it's Grizzlies and Suns in the Western Conference Finals.
Monica, what about you? Who would you have today, Western Conference Finals?
I'm inclined to agree with JJ. I think that the Grizzlies are going to be all right in the absence of Ja, which to me, Ja is going to be able to be healthy and whole and ready to be explosive. I've had the Phoenix Suns coming out of the West all year, but the way JJ broke it down is the way that I would agree. And let me just say, this is probably not close, but I think for an organization, it is close, I'll say that. Because for an organization that is accustomed to being there, I just don't know that I see them there. Like, will they be top 4, top 5, great playoff team? Sure. But I don't know if I see them there moving forward.
Monica, I just want to go back to the Warriors really quick, because if you're arguing the window has potentially closed. So do you think Steph Curry is done winning championships?
Ooh. No, I wouldn't say done winning championships, but I think this iteration of these guys, I don't think that they're going to continue to be able to do it together. Listen, and I think it's interesting, JJ, that you brought up the Spurs, because I'm thinking stylistically of what that sort of 3 as the centerpiece was asked to do compared to Steph and Klay and Draymond. To me, I'm glad to hear that Draymond is healthy, and I hope that's sincere. But we can't ever undersell that he is still undersized at the position that he plays. Steph's game is so much movement. If you start talking about lower body injuries that tack up over time, like that's another thing. And while we've seen flashes of Klay, is flashes of Klay going to be good enough to the Klay that was a key component to what they once did? And so it made me think a little bit, but I just wonder, again, as the rest of the league continues to chase after them.
Yeah, stylistically, the Spurs played a bunch of different ways. There was a progression into whose team it was. It was Tim's team. It was a heavy post-up team in the early 2000s. Then it was Tony's team. Then it was Manu's team. Then it was Kawhi's team. When they beat the Heat, and of course they lose in 7 games in 2013. When they beat the Heat in 14, though, they're running like a spread pick and roll offense with heavy ball movement, attacking closeout, getting three-point shots. So they changed their style quite a bit. The one thing I want to just say about Klay is that I'm not thinking about this version of Klay that we're seeing this season. I'm thinking about the version of him a year out, 2 years out. Look, Klay's 30 years old.
Okay.
But we've got to give him time to get reacclimated. And generally speaking, with these very serious lower body injuries, guys aren't normal until 18 months after coming back. That's sort of the time frame. And he's been playing basketball now for, 3 months? So let's give him a little bit of more time to look like the Klay that we saw for so long.
Yeah, last word here, Monica.
I agree with you, JJ, and which is why I think we were excited to see Klay return, but you got to give it a little bit more time. But let me ask you this. Is there a Kawhi Leonard on their roster right now? Somebody that can be the next guy to lead it, in your mind?
No, there's not.
I mean, not Kawhi, but you know what I mean.
No, I know what you're saying. My point was, look, Wiggins has shown that he can be an all-star, and certainly when he played in Minnesota, he was a high-volume shot creator, so there's definitely talent there. Jordan Poole, we talk about Tyler Hero being the 6th man of the year. Jordan Poole will be in that conversation at some point if he doesn't end up being a starter. And then the real question mark, of course, is James Wiseman. Like, he was the number 2 overall pick. Can he become an all-star level player at that 5 position? That, to me, certainly extends that window.
Yeah, that was a huge blow, losing him. And the Celtics took a huge blow yesterday as well. Okay, Monica, JJ, sit tight. I'm glad that you're still repping your Hoyas. I know it wasn't your year, but as for you, JJ, I have a Tar Heel waiting for you.
Jeez, Molly, you too?
Listen, UConn to New Mexico State. I know the ladies are doing their thing, but listen, the men didn't have the best title run either, so not taking shots, okay? I'm with you. We'll keep it rolling. They'll both be back. To the NFL we go now. Tyreek Hill taking his talents to South Beach. The Cheetah, now the highest paid receiver